Second base can be a tough position to navigate in fantasy baseball. So who are the top ranked second basemen? Sliding in at number 10, I'm going to go with Jorge Polanco of the Minnesota Twins. He's one of those players that does that every other year kind of thing where he's really good and then has a down year and then back to good and then down again. So guess what? This could be his year. He went for 33 home runs and 98 RBIs in the 2021 season. But last year, a different story. Only 16 home runs, 56 RBIs. Granted, he was injured and missed a few games, but still the production was way down. That was kind of the story of the Twins offense last year. So if this team can just stay healthy, look at guys like Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa at the top of the lineup hitting ahead of Polanco. Could be explosive. He could have plenty of chances to drive in runs if it all works out. At number 9, I'm going with the Mets' Jeff McNeil. Now with this pick, you're definitely getting help in batting average, but you're sacrificing at power. He had an expected batting average in the 94th percentile, and he barely strikes out, 99th percentile in K rate. Unfortunately, that comes with a lack of power. As I mentioned, the home run department, you'll be lucky to even get double digits with him. That 23 homer season back in 2019, definitely looking like an outlier on his resume. There's no speed here either. That's the problem. You're not getting really home runs or steals. So if you want to boost in one category, and that's average, and then a decent amount of runs, but not much else, that's what you get with McNeil. He's worth having on your roster just because of the bump in average. Hard to get anybody who can consistently hit over 300. I'd say if he can get his runs scored across the 75, hopefully maybe 80 mark, he will be worth having as your everyday second baseman. Now up to number 8. I'm going with a guy I think is going to have a bounce back season. I know there's risk involved, but I'm going to put Jonathan India all the way up here. I talked about him extensively in my draft values video, somebody who's going way later than he should. I know last season was a massive letdown, but a lot of that was because of injury. The talent is still there, and I think he's worth having. There's definitely more upside than the two guys I've mentioned, plus all the other second basemen who didn't make this list. I would gladly have India over any of those. At number 7, for second baseman entering this season, I'm going to go with Tommy Edman of the Cardinals. Qualifies at second and short, but you definitely will use him at second base if you're drafting him. Why is he this high? It's simple. Steals. This is a guy who's gone over 30 steals the last 2 seasons. The power is modest, if even that. The batting average is decent. The runs scored, that's the other way he's going to help your team, because hitting at the top of that Cardinals order, if he continues to hit at the top of the order, he should cross the plate plenty. And then at number 6, there's Andres Gimenez, guy who definitely had a breakout year in 2022. He helped in every category. The question is, can he repeat it? Well, if you look at the metrics, he might have outperformed his batting average by enough that we'll see a drop. He hit 297, but that was 40 points higher than his XBA. I think it's very obvious that he's going to get some regression there, at least a little bit, if not a massive drop. As far as power, 17 home runs last year. I think he could replicate that, but again, that might be his peak. I really don't expect him to get 20 or more. The 20 steals, that's legit. He has elite sprint speed. I wouldn't be surprised if he does even better in that sense. Although if he's reaching base less, we might not see more steals. Then again, the rule changes this year. We know those bags are bigger. We know pitchers aren't able to throw over as much. All told, we could see more stolen bases across the board. So with Gimenez, I would expect a dip in average, increased speed, the power, probably pretty much static. Look, all told, the total package here, he's set and forget second baseman, but he's not one that you want to reach for. If you're expecting him to break out even more, that would be a mistake. As we get to the top 5 now, it's Jose Altuve time. What do you do with Altuve? We really never know what we're going to get across his career. I have no idea, honestly, how to project Altuve for this coming season. Altuve, you really can't put him lower than 5, although his upside is no longer that of these elite second basemen I'm about to talk about. Now, at number 4, you know I want to rank Jazz higher, but I'm trying to be realistic here. At number 4, Jazz Chisholm. I mean, could be an absolute superstar if he can keep it all together. You might have heard, despite the fact that he is going to be second base in most fantasy lineups, he's not even going to play the position this year. He's going to be a center fielder. Now, as far as fantasy goes, Jazz was on his way to possibly historic season last year before the injury, which is what made it so tough. If you talk about a 162 game pace on what he did play last year, he was going to get 37 home runs, 32 steals, and 121 RBIs. For a second baseman, that's amazing. I think the big question with Jazz, and the only reason that we might be a little worried, is if will he stay healthy, but also Don Mattingly is out, and Marlins fans are happy about that, but he did always give the green light to his players. And so will this team run as much under new management? Maybe the steals don't come quite as often. Nevertheless, the talent is definitely there, and I love Jazz. I love his upside. Number 3, I'm going with another bounce back candidate who had his season cut short, and that's Ozzie Albies of the Braves. Like Jazz, barely got in more than a third of the season. He played 64 games last year, and the games that he did play wasn't really that great, to be honest. But we know what he can do. The year before, he went 30-20 in terms of homers and steals. He scored over 100 runs in the previous 3 full seasons. Almost a sure bet to be one of the league leaders in that category. Definitely a 5 category stud. Now the question is, are we going to get the Albies from his breakout season, or are we going to get something a little bit less? What I'm expecting realistically from him is an average about 275, 25 home runs, 80 RBIs, 15 steals, and over 100 runs scored. That'll play. He is going to be a guy that as long as he's on the field, you don't have to worry about. The power and the speed are there. But again, runs scored is a category we don't talk about enough. It's always one of the keys to fantasy production. A little harder to predict. It's still something that you know with a guy like Albies, he's going to be among the leaders in. At number 2, I'm putting Marcus Semien of the Rangers. No surprise, another power speed guy. 26 home runs, 25 steals a year ago. Those stolen bases were a career best. And that's no coincidence because the Rangers led the majors in stolen bases last year. They were the team that liked to run the most. I don't think that's going to change. Now, what keeps Semien just above Albies and Chisholm, guys I've already mentioned, is the fact that he is an accumulator. That is meant to be a compliment. He's a guy who will rack up these totals and these stats because he stays on the field. In 6 of the last full seasons, he's played at least 155 games. And that by itself is reason to put him high on your draft board. A guy who you know is going to be out there. You don't have to worry as much about injuries. He's going to continue to pile up those counting stats, and that's what it's all about. At number 1, though, we have to go with the guy who technically still is a second baseman and actually will play about 40 games at the position this year from what we're told. That is Mookie Betts. Started his career as a second baseman, of course, has been in the outfield the last several years, but now is going to split some duty between those positions. Now, this version of Mookie Betts is a little different than the Red Sox version. He's now 30 years old, only 22 steals the last 2 years combined. In his prime, he would easily go over that in a single season. So he doesn't have the speed upside of the last couple of players. Why is he number 1? Because he's elite in everything else. He's compensating for the somewhat lack of speed with more power, a career high 35 home runs last season. And of course, being at the top of that loaded Dodgers lineup, 117 runs scored. You can almost pencil him in right now to be among the top 10 in runs scored. I'd say if there's one concern, the fact that his average did dip down to 269 last year. Not bad, but maybe not elite for the top player to his position. I'm not too worried. I still think he's fine there. Marcus Semien isn't going to be better than him in batting average. Ozzie Albies might not either. So right now, knowing you're getting such high-end production in almost every category, and he will swipe at least double digits, you're fine. Mookie Betts, nothing to worry about. What about the top 10 first baseman for the 2023 season? Check it out right here.